Yo, what's going on? Chavo Guerrero Jr. here, giving a big shout out to Wrestling Rehab. Keep watching, keep listening, and viva la raza.
Órale. Huh. Wonder why that had a little bit of a hiccup. All right. Wrestling Rehab Total Trucker. Shout outs to all the junkies out there. Had a had a long day today, man. Wasn't sure if I was gonna be able to get home to do this. And I knew it had to be today because I'm like, well, wait, was it gonna be Thursday? And I'm like, oh no, man, I'm going to a boxing match on Thursday. Like, shoot, man, I want to do this. Um, what's up, OC? Old school. I always respect siempre carnal to you. Hey, respect's right back, man. All right. So, last week I came on here talking a little bit and it just got me pumped up, Holmes. It did. It got me pumped up to talk just some old school wrestling. Man, I've said this numerous of times, and I'm gonna say it again. I can't remember when I first started watching wrestling. Okay, all I know is that for as long as I can remember, I've been alive. I've been watching wrestling. So, there's a lot of people that have the story like, oh, I remember my first wrestling match, or I remember how I got into wrestling. I don't. Just like I don't remember what's the first cartoon I ever watched or anything. For just as long as I can remember being alive, I can remember watching wrestling. So, and my grandma, she was really into like lucha libre and stuff. But anyway, man, um, when I think about old school wrestling, right? Obviously, there's a few things that really come to mind. Right? First of all, the immortal one, right? The Hulkster. Names like him, names like Big John Studd, names like Andre the Giant, names like Bad News Brown, guys like that. But in reality, the thing that really comes to mind is exactly what you guys see on the thumbnail. Jesse the Body Ventura and Gorilla Monsoon. Both of those guys, it was gold, man. It was gold listening to them do commentary. I loved it. That's probably, man, I don't know if that's the best duo right there, but damn it, I loved it, man. Bobby the Brain Heenan was really good too. But I think maybe it was just the voice of the Body Ventura. I'm thinking that that's probably what it was. But man, it's just the way he would talk to Gorilla too, like, I'm telling you, Gorilla. It just it was badass. Loved it, man. Oh yeah, the Iron Sheik. Oh yeah. Yeah. You know the thing with the Iron Sheik? All right. Let's talk about the Iron Sheik just for a second, right? So it was a different time. For damn sure, it was a different time, right? There was, the Hulkster was really going on patriotism. Like, yeah, the good old all American guy, man. And yeah, I mean, he back then was on a different level. He today, like, it's different, man. It'll never be what it once was. He back then, you used to get death threats. Like, people were really out looking to kill you. But I mean, nobody's really doing that today. When you're a heel today, you're just a heel. Let's just boo them. But back in those days, man, you want to talk about kayfabe? Like, gosh, man, dudes would get death threats. So when you had the Iron Sheik um, going up against the Hulkster, it was like, yeah, come on, the good old US of A, man. versus this guy who hates America. The only problem, right? The only problem, which wasn't even really too much of a problem, but it's just that Hogan towered over um, the Iron Sheik. Hogan's a big dude, man. He's a big dude, and it would have been a little bit better having the good guy a little bit smaller than the bad guy. Like he's got a, you know, like when he faced Andre the Giant, right? It's like against the Giants, David and Goliath. But when you got the heel who's smaller um, than the baby face, I mean, you know, again, it's cool, but it doesn't sell as right. It just doesn't. It's like, all right, good. I'm going for the good guy. And back then, especially in those days, man, nobody would root for the bad guy. Nobody would root for the bad guy. That changed. That changed somewhere around the '90s, man. That changed somewhere around like with Razor Ramon. But going deep into the '80s, yeah, man, nobody would root for the heel. As a matter of fact, you might even get jumped, Holmes, on the real. If you were a fan in the arena and you went in there, rooting for the Iron Sheik, I'm and it was you were talking about what, like circa 1984 or something. I think you probably would have got jumped. Today you could go, with a T-shirt of a heel or whatever. Yeah, maybe some people might talk a little bit of smack here and there, but nothing major. Nothing, you're not gonna be in any danger. But back in those days, I'm telling you, man, the heat was different. You as a fan, you go into an arena rooting for the bad guy. Yeah, yeah, you might your physical well-being um might be in jeopardy, man. Yeah, oh, see, yeah, it took it serious, like super serious. That's what I'm saying. That if you weren't around in that time, you'll never notice. You'll never know what that feeling's like because it's not like that today, and it hasn't been like that for many years. You could root for the bad guy. You could root for the heel. You could root for whomever you want. You could boo. Like I said, you might get some drunk, jackass over there that might say something to you, but outside of that, it's different. You're not gonna know what I'm talking about unless you were there in that era. You root for the heel, you you might get jumped, especially since that era you never had heel versus heel. You never had babyface versus babyface. That's why WrestleMania 6 was humongous. Champion versus champion, title for title. The Hulkster versus the Ultimate Warrior. WWF champion versus Intercontinental champion. Champion versus champion, title for title. WrestleMania 6. In my opinion, just me, myself, that will always be, well, I don't know if I should say always. Well, yeah, maybe, man. To me, it's definitely in history as the greatest main events, not in ring performances. Okay, do not mistake what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the in-ring performance. I'm talking. Yeah, I mean, for what those dudes did, it wasn't a bad match, right? Especially at that time. But just the buildup for me was like, wow. Like Hulk Hogan was coming off of a WrestleMania and WrestleMania 5 having a pretty damn good match against the Macho Man, which again goes back to what I was saying. The Macho Man, much smaller than the Hulkster, right? But the Macho Man was a damn great wrestler. The Macho Man Randy Savage, as much as wrestlers catch some heat from way back in the day of like, oh man, those guys, they can't really wrestle, they can't really move the way guys today can, right? And to a certain degree, that is true because at that time, in that era, Vince was really looking for those big bodybuilder dudes. It doesn't mean that there wasn't wrestlers that couldn't wrestle. It's just they didn't get the major spotlight the way guys like Hulk Hogan did, right? The big bodybuilder dudes that couldn't really move around, those were the guys that got over. Those were the guys that got the big push. Macho Man Randy Savage, that guy can go, man. That guy can move in the ring. That guy was great wrestler. Let's see. I couldn't stand the big boss man. Oh man, the big boss man with the nightstick. Yeah, he was one. He was a bad guy. Then he turns babyface like in the 90s, teams up with Hogan, backs up Hogan against when Hogan is beefing it over there with Earthquake. Which, by the way, well, hold on, I don't want to get too far ahead, but listen, Macho Man had character guts. Now that played a big part. Definitely. Oh, yeah, man. I mean, till this day, till this day, all you got to do is say, "Ooh, yeah." Boom. Everybody knows what you're talking about. Everybody knows what you're talking about. You talking about snap it to the Slim Jim? He ain't the only one who did that. People might forget the Ultimate Warrior did some snap it to the Slim Jim commercials. But it was the Macho Man that stuck out. Snap it to the Slim Jim. Oh yeah. That's all you gotta say. All you gotta say is oh yeah. Or even snap it to the Slim Jim. Macho Man is the first one that you think of. And at that time, in that era, he was one of those wrestlers where it's like, hey, you know what? That dude could compete today. And you're not gonna say like, hey, his moves are outdated. Like, no, that guy can compete. His style, his stilo, the way his elbow off the top turnbuckle. I've never seen an elbow like that. Like it was like picture perfect, Holmes, when he would jump off the top turnbuckle and the way he would put his arm, like man, it's like if he holds his hands together or something. It was strange, but it looked so damn cool. Love the Macho Man. Let's see. But only Macho Man is remembered for that. But okay, so Hogan faced Macho Man at WrestleMania 5, right? They in WrestleMania 4, Hogan did not compete. All right, he was there. They had that whole tournament thing. Then WrestleMania kind of flies under the radar. I mean, there's not you got one man gang. I think he was in that tournament and stuff. I just remember Hogan walking down the stairs, the golden stairs. But um, they had not captured really the attention that they did at WrestleMania 3 when Hogan faced Andre the Giant. Until that is, until that is WrestleMania 6. And like I said, to me, that will probably always be the biggest WrestleMania main event. It just, the build up to it, something that we've never seen before, watching two baby faces, champion versus champion, title for title. The Ultimate Warrior had exploded and he was on Hogan's level at that time. Now his fire burned out pretty damn quick. I was a big Ultimate Warrior fan. I was huge Ultimate Warrior fan. I love the Warrior. And I was actually rooting for Warrior over Hogan in that match. Doesn't mean I hated Hogan because I was the old Hulkamaniac until Warrior came in. And I'm like, man, this guy's badass, man. He's got the hair, he's got the paint, he's shaking the ropes. It's like you can't hurt him. Like that to me will always be the biggest WrestleMania main event. Badass, man. Badass. Let me see. How about Jimmy Snuka? He would fly off the top ropes. Oh yeah, he would, man. Yeah, he was. As Jeff Hardy once said, he was the high flyer before high flyers. He stands on the top turnbuckle, puts his hands up. He's got that crazy hair. He's got that freaking like cheetah trunks or something like that. Leopard trunks. And yeah, he was pretty much what Jeff Hardy said. He was the high flyer before there was high flyers. Today, they've taken it to a completely different level. But man, I'll tell you, those days, those times in wrestling, um, you know, a image just came to my mind. And I just want to talk about it real quick. Um, the Hot Rod, Roddy Piper, may God bless his soul. The Hot Rod had a match against Bad News Brown. In that match, Roddy Piper paints half of his body black. Bad News Brown is a black man. Roddy Piper in that match brings out this glove. The ones doing commentary, I believe, is Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby the Brain Heenan. He brings out this glittery glove or something like that because he's about to hit Bad News Brown with it. it was Bobby the Brain Heenan who yelled out, "It's a Michael Jackson glove," and it was so damn funny. I was a kid at that time, right? And I was watching it. I was watching that match or that event. My mom used to work at Pioneer Chicken. I'm not. I don't think Pioneer Chickens exist anymore. Maybe there's still one hanging around, but she dropped us off at her boss's house. He was there with his family, and they were gonna watch it. Everybody was laughing, right? And me being a kid, like I was just looking at Roddy Piper painted half black. I didn't really get it. I didn't really understand it, till years later, and then I could just say like, damn, like he's painted half black, and he pulls out a glittery glove, dog. It was man, it was a different time. It was definitely a different time. Let me see. I used to like the Bushwhackers. They tripped me out. Yeah, the Bushwhackers were good. Was it Butch and Luke, right? Imagine someone doing that now. Their career would be over. Oh yeah. Oh, see, it'd be done, man. It'll be done. They wouldn't even make it out the locker room like that. It was a good time, dog. The Bushwhacker. You know what, OC? Let me say this, man. Back then, and this is why it's failing today. Back then, tag teams actually were tag teams. All right, as opposed to today, there are a few tag teams that are tag teams, but it's just that division is like gone. It's like dead, man. Like nobody cares about it. You gotta make actual tag teams. You cannot just get two dudes, put them together. Hey, they're gonna go after the tag team championships. No, it's got to be an actual tag team. They gotta dress the same. They got to come out to the same music. They got to compete in tag team matches. They need to have a finisher move that involves both of them. You don't just have you don't have Axe come out to one song and then Smash come out to another song and both of them have a different finisher maneuver. Like no, that's not a tag team. And they're gonna have Axe wearing overalls and Smash wearing that freaking Mad Max gear. Like that's not a tag team. Axe and Smash both wore face paint. They wore the same gear. They had the music. They came out to the same music. They had a finisher maneuver that involved both of them. So the Hart Foundation, so the Rockers, so the Bushwhackers. Bushwhackers had the battering ram. Butch, was it Butch? Damn it! Now I'm forgetting. I know Luke. I know Luke. Was the other one Butch? I think it was Butch. He would get Luke like in this headlock, right? But Luke would be behind him though. His body would be behind him. And he'd rub his head. Because they would do that, man. They would be like rubbing each other's head and they're savages, homie. They're savages. And then they just run into their opponent using Luke's head as a battering ram. And the thing is that back then, in those days, the tag team division worked. It worked. Unlike today, tag teams were actually huge. Tag teams were actually a thing. When somebody was tag team champions, it meant something. Nobody even cares who the tag team. I'll be real with you guys, man. I'm trying to think who the hell is the tag team champions right now. You know what? It just came to mind. It's Gargano and that other dude. I think they go by DIY or something like that. Yeah, they would lick each other's heads, the Bushwhackers. Yeah, dog, they're savages, man. They're like wild animals. But see, tag teams back then, man, they worked. Legion of Doom. Just so many, man. British Bulldogs. Now, eventually, some of these guys went off to have their, singles career, like the Usos. But I'm just saying, if you want tag teams to work, you gotta have them be tag teams, an actual team. not them competing solo, doing their own thing on the side. And then when a PLE comes, like, oh, we're gonna put them together, and they're gonna go, after the tag team titles. Like, nah, chale. Their career has to be the tag team. Like, that's one thing that I would like to see again. Like, make that division great, man. Because it was a big part of wrestling back in those days. Used to love it. It meant something. Even into the 90s. Even when you got, you know what? It even worked when you got two random dudes and put them together that made sense. Quick example. The $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, was a singles competitor. Fast forward into the 90s. He was part of a tag team with IRS, Money Incorporated. They were tag team champions. But it made sense. Both of their characters, they were singles competitors, but when they came together to make a tag team, it made sense. One is the $1 Million Man, the other one is IRS. Money Incorporated, let's put them together. They come out together, they're a tag team, they became tag team champions, and it was a solid tag team. Heck, they defended their titles at WrestleMania 9 against Hulk Hogan and Brutus the Barber Beefcake. Yeah, it's a little bit of a roller coaster. There's a lot of ups and downs, and we need to change this, last minute. But that's one thing, man, that I wish would come back in wrestling, tag team division, but real tag team division. I mean, Shawn Michaels, one of the greatest ever, was in a tag team, a legit tag team, the Rockers. Now, I never thought they were really that good. They were cool, the Rockers. The Rockers were like jobbers when it came to a tag team division, but they were cool. They were eye capturing, just because of their look. They're a little bit more high flyers, especially at that time. I mean, don't, they were not the Hardy Boys or anything like that. It was a different time. But I mean, they did lose a lot. Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty, but they were a legit tag team. And then when it was time for HBK to break away and have his singles run, here comes the betrayal. The biggest betrayal in wrestling history. Who can forget it? Who can forget that? The kick. HBK with the super kick with some Sweet Chin music before it was even known as Sweet Chin music. Oh, yes, kids, let me talk to you for a second. You think that kick was always known as Sweet Chin music? Oh, no. That name came later on. But they were making amends. The Rockers were going to stay together. They're best buddies. And then wham, out of nowhere, Shawn Michaels nails Marty Jannetty with a kick. Gets Jannetty up by his hair. and then smashes his head right through the glass, right through the window. The the betrayal heard around the world, and there was the birth of Shawn Michaels. Let me see. The Hardy Boys were the last righteous tag team I remember. Um, let's see. The Hardy Boys. I would say I would put the Usos there. It's just that, unfortunately, when the Usos were around, it's just the tag team division was already like it was already dying off, man. You got um the New Day, who is a trio, but yeah, it's like the tag team division it wasn't what it once was. When you had the Hardy Boys, Edge and Christian, which Edge and Christian should have used a name. They should have combined a certain name, right? Like when you had Cesaro and Sheamus as a tag team, yeah, it was Sheamus and Cesaro, but they called themselves the Bar, right? Which I thought was a pretty good tag team. Um, you had the Dudley Boys at that time with the Hardy Boy. Yeah, the Dudley Boys. You had the Hardy Boys there. You had Edge and Christian. Um, yeah, man. Yeah, I mean that was probably like the last time that the tag team division had some wheels. I think that's the like around the last time. That time right there, that was probably the last time that the tag team division was rolling, had some wheels on it, man. I actually like Sheamus. Yeah, yeah. I remember that. That wasn't right. Oh, when Shawn Michaels did that to Marginetti. Oh yes. Oh yes. He plowed Janetti's head right through the damn glass. And the era, the kid, which would be known to everybody now, the Heartbreak Kid, was born. But it was with some help, though. It was with some help. See, there was it was a different era. See, you had managers, real managers. Today, I mean, just Paul Heyman's around, right? But back then, man, you had a lot of managers. And for those that do not remember, Shawn Michaels' music, that whole I think I'm cute, I think I'm sexy, that song was actually sung by Sensational Sherry first. I mean, when Shawn Michaels comes out, and he's gonna be coming out at Saturday Night's Main Event, by the way, you're gonna hear his voice. But before that, he had Sherry as his manager. She's one of the greatest to ever do it, by the way. By far, she's one of the greatest to ever do it. And she was singing the song. And Shawn Michaels, I think Shawn Michaels would have been huge no matter what, right? But because he wanted to go with that character, that he's God's gift to women, right? He's the heartbreak kid. I think she nailed it. Her being at his corner nailed it to perfection. She was so damn good at what she did. Man, I love me some Sensational Sherry. Scary Sherry, man. The Honky Tonk Man. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Scary Sherry. One of the greatest ever. One of the greatest ever. Bar none. Man, I love me some Sherry. The Honky Tonk Man. Basically just a rip off of Elvis. But it worked. It worked. With the mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart by his side. Definitely worked. And, him and Jake the Snake will always have that beef because Jake the Snake truly believes that Honky Tonk hit him with the guitar with the intention to hurt him. As I think about it, as I think about a lot of these times, right? Your character really had. I think it was a time where your character had to be better than your in-ring ability. Now, to a certain degree, it's still like that. Because if you have no character, no charisma, but you could throw down in the ring, it is going to be a little bit of an issue. But see, like the Honky Tonk Man, yeah, he was over, but I can't really say like, hey, wrestling wise, like, man, that guy was great to watch in the ring. When you think of Jake the Snake, I enjoyed watching him. Coco Beware. Coco Beware was a straight jobber, man. Coming out with the parrot. Oh man, he was a straight jobber. Yeah, Jake the Snake. See, that's what I'm saying. Like Jake the Snake, his character was cool, right? Coming out with Damien, the big python. I like the way he used to throw his fist. And just his DDT was killer. But I don't know how great of a wrestler I would say Jake the Snake is. His character is really great. I remember when he was beefing it with the Undertaker for they're gonna have a match at WrestleMania 8. Ah, that was some good times. Ah, damn, that was some good times right there, man. Undertaker actually nailed them with the tombstone outside of the ring with Bobby the Brain Heenan calling that match. And I could hear it right now in my head. Bobby the Brain Heenan. When Undertaker, it got him up because Jake the Snake is about to go after. Jake the Snake hit the DDT on the Undertaker like two or three times, right? And instead of pinning the Undertaker, Jake the Snake sees Paul Bear outside of the ring, and now he sees that the Undertaker's down, and now he sees his chance. Let me go beat up on Paul Bear. Let me go take that stupid urn away from him. So he goes out. He goes out of the ring. He grabs Paul Bear. Paul Bear's a big dude. He can't run or anything, so he's just kind of like backing up. He grabs Paul Bear and he socks him. He socks someone, right? Undertaker does what Undertaker does. He sits up, goes out of the ring. Jake the Snake doesn't notice it. Undertaker gets him up, puts him in the tombstone position, and I could remember. This is why commentary is so damn important. Some people have said, like, I don't like, what does it matter who switches around where? Here on this channel, I do cover commentary. I do say who's going where, and because it's important. It's important, man. for moments like this. I remember Gorilla Monsoon and Jesse the Body Ventura. But here, what I'm about to explain, Bobby the Brain Heenan, I remember it clearly, Holmes. Undertaker, WrestleMania 8, got Jake the Snake up in the tombstone position outside of the ring, and Bobby the Brain Heenan is yelling, "No, no, not on the floor!" And he nails it. And he goes, "Oh no!" And the Gorilla Monsoon is saying, "Tombstone City." And as Undertaker gets him up and throws him back in the ring, Bobby the Brain Heenan saying like, "He broke his neck, Gorilla. I bet he broke his neck." Pins him 1, 2, 3. Feed him. Damn, it was love it. Oh, he slapped his. Oh, Rikishi. Yeah, the father of the Usos. Yeah, yeah. That was a little bit later on. But yeah, man. He was there with Too Cool when he came in. You remember Grandmaster Sex and Scotty Too Hottie doing the worm. Come to find out that Grandmaster Sexay was the son of Jerry the King Lawler. But yeah, man, just that era back then, it was different, and I think a lot of it started changing. Razor Ramon had a lot to do with it when he came in into the big spotlight. I remember Hogan saying this, and it's true. Uh, Razor Ramon, hey, yo, Chico, say hello to the bad guy. I'm gonna carve you up. Razor Ramon, as the Hulkster said, he's the first one that made it cool to be the bad guy. It was right around then when I started noticing people rooting for the heel. Now, baby faces were still baby faces, and heels were heels. And at some point, Razor Ramon did become a baby face. Okay, but I'm talking about when he was a heel. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not like everybody was cheering him, but there were quite a few fans, and I'm like, it was a little bit different because you never really saw that. You never really saw anybody. Nobody was rooting for Ravishing Rick Rude. Ravishing Rick Rude was a heel. He'd come out, he cut his promo. Listen, you fat, slobby, disgusting, pathetic, whatever, right? Because he wanted to show off his sexy body, do his little dance before he hit the neck breaker. By the way, dog, his neck breaker was killer. It was killer. To this day, I haven't seen a neck breaker like that. But yeah, he come out, you fat slob, pathetic, whatever, dog. Nobody was rooting for Ravishing Rick Rude. Nobody was rooting for any of the heels. It wasn't until Razor Ramon, I'm gonna say circa 1993-ish or something like that, when Razor Ramon, there was a little bit of a turn to what we see today, so many years later, where it's like, hey, you know what? This machismo guy. Maybe it was the correlation that they're making with him and the movie Scarface. I mean, that is where Razor Ramon got his character from. If you guys don't know that story, Razor Ramon had told Vince, or Vince had told him, like, "Hey, what do you like? What do you? We're trying to think of something for you, right? A gimmick. You just can't go in as Scott Hall. This isn't the NWO days yet, right? Which later on happened in WCW. It's like, no, we need an actual character for you. You just can't be Scott Hall. We need a character for you. And he had said, hey, we really like Scarface. Boom. Born Razor Ramon. The toothpick, though. Oh, yeah, Chico. Gonna carve you up. Say hello to the bad guy, right? And it's sold. It's sold. Now, maybe because the correlation from Scarface. Now, nobody knew that at that time. Like, oh, he got his character because of Scarface. Nobody knew that. We'll found that out later. But maybe because of that, people were, rooting for him a little bit. There were still more people booing him, but he was the first guy to make the bad guy be cool. Like, hey, I kind of want to root for the bad guy. Me personally, I've never seen that before. Nobody's rooting for Big John Studd. Years later, you can appreciate their careers, but for dang sure, nobody's rooting for the Iron Sheik. Nobody's rooting for any of these guys. But he was the first one, man, to make the heel be the cool guy. Hey, it's kind of cool to root for the guy. A lot of people like to say it was Steve Austin. No, actually, it was Razor Ramon. And then Steve Austin took that to another level. But nonetheless, man, I just want to come on here and talk some old school wrestling, relive some of my childhood. I mean, damn it, dog. I've been watching wrestling my entire life. For as long as I know I got a memory, I've been watching wrestling. And I will probably, die watching wrestling. I love it, man. I love it. And there's still matches that I go back and I watch. I still go back and I watch the British Bulldog versus Bret the Hitman Hart for the Intercontinental Championship. SummerSlam, circa 1992. So, you know what I'm going to do? You know what I'm going to do, junkies? I'm going to go back and I'm going to watch The Ultimate Warrior versus Hulk Hogan from beginning to end. And I'll give my recap. I have not seen that match in many years. I'm going to go back. I'm going to watch it. And I'm going to give you guys my recap, man. But for that, I'll go ahead. I'll end it there. It was fun just talking some old school wrestling, man. And yeah, well, we'll have to do it every so often. We get so caught up on what's going on today, and there's some good stories and all that today. But every now and then, man, it's good to turn back the page and relive those days, man. So, all right, I'm gonna watch it now. Orale, handle it, man. I'm gonna watch it too. I'll probably watch it over the weekend. But yeah, damn. Good stuff. All right, man. Cholo Trucker Wrestling Rehab. Shouts out the junkies. Catch you guys on next one. And